Hello and welcome to Cornish Walking Trails. Today we're walking from St Just to here, Cape Cornwall. We have a wonderful story about a wrecker today, slightly different to smuggling, as we'll find out as the video plays out. Here's where we started our walk in St Just churchyard. Just near the church, it's really higgledy-piggledy, isn't it, Andrew? And it's so, you get that feeling of it being so old.
Some beautiful properties in St Just. Some of them are really old, like ones around the church area, in the square there are really old. And maybe you've got sort of the miners' houses as well. You've got the rows where the old miners would have lived.
Yeah, and they're so cramped on top of each other, aren't they? But what I like is that you can actually come here and you have everything you need. It's the most westerly town in Cornwall and could feel quite remote.
It's even got an airport.
And a golf course.
And a golf course. We're going to be walking past the golf course. Cricket grounds, football grounds.
Cricket, rugby club.
Yeah, it's got everything.
It's got everything.
Even got pasty shop. For our walk, so we parked here. This is the Portherras car park. It's free parking. It's April 2024. Brilliant. Two books.
Yes, our story today appears in both of these books. It's quite a well-known folklore story for this area. It has everything. It has evil, it has the might of God thrown into it, and it has pirates and wreckers as well. The fascinating thing for us is that this particular book, it's a Victorian book, and like of that era, it was actually, there was a number of subscribers that helped it to be printed, so the author would engage people, ask them to support him, and they would subscribe to the writing and printing of a book. At the back it gives a list of those subscribers. S.H. James, that's Stephen Harvey James of Almavilla St Just.
Okay, and what's the book called?
The book is Traditions and Hearthside Stories of West Cornwall. So it's St Just near Pendeen in West Cornwall that we're talking about, not to be confused with one in the Roseland now. What makes this particularly interesting for us is that the name in this book, Stephen Harvey James, is also the name on this gravestone that was stood beside. To be honest, we're not entirely sure which Stephen Harvey James it was. There was actually 3 volumes of this, and we think the father at the top and the son were both involved at some point. It's more likely to be Stephen Harvey James, who was born in June 1821 and died in 1887. And just to give you that final bit of proof, he's actually written his name in the top here, S.H. James, Almavilla, 1873. So that was just a little bit of an interest, a bit of an aside for us to link this book to this place, to this person, and we were sat there going, oh. Anyway, back to our story. It is a fantastic story about a wrecker. So let's start. We need to head down towards the coast. We're going to go past the school and out to the coast path. Love old buildings like that. Concrete on the roof to keep it good for a few more years. Old windows just about hanging on in there. And it's a garage. You'd never in a million years get a modern car in there, would you? Your Chelsea tractors won't fit in there, will they?
No, that's where they keep a surfboard.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. It's not his garage.
Cove is just on the kind of dark side, the shadowy side, northern side of the headlands there, with Land's End Hotel, and you've got a couple of lighthouses. On days like today, it just seems like endless sky.
This has to be, Sarah, one of the very best views, one of the best reveals as you come around the corner. And you're greeted with this stunning view of Cape
The headland is just exquisite, isn't it? It's so dramatic. And if you don't know what it is, you start wondering, what is that chimney up there and what's it for? In fact, the chimney is a draw chimney from the mining industry that was here in the 19th and 20th centuries. It avoided demolition because it had become a valuable navigation aid. Ah, now that's proper gate leaning, isn't it? With a fabulous view. Oh, and the sound of those waves gently breaking over those rocks. It's idyllic today.
And if you're very, very, very lucky, you might catch a sight of a Cornish chough.
I have heard them actually.
I was just waiting.
So there's one over there above the toilet block at the moment. Look, he's
they find all the best places to hang out.
Well, apparently what attracts them is manure. They love cow manure.
Right.
They love eating the worms in the cow manure.
We got cows going in the toilet.
Let's go down to the cove. It's even nicer down there. Several of these little concrete walled pools on beaches in Cornwall, commonly called mermaid pools. What a romantic name for them. It looks lovely, the water looks so clean and fresh. Could easily go in there in the summer on a hot sunny day.
So would this be a good spot to start telling the story?
It would, it's where it starts. Our story starts here and it frightens the wits out of the local fishermen. This Robert Hunt book is a collection of stories and folklore from ancient wells to unimaginable cures for things, and also about superstitions in Cornwall, Cornish folklore if you like. So this story is entitled The Pirate Wrecker and the Death Ship. It starts here in Cape Cornwall, and it says, one lovely evening in the autumn a strange ship was seen at short distance from Cape Cornwall. The little wind there was blown from the land, but that did not avail herself of it. She evidently permitted to drift with the tide, which was flowing southward. The vessel, with her peculiar rig, created no small amount of alarm amongst the fishermen, since it told them that she was manned by pirates. At length, when within a couple of pistol shots of the shore, a boat was lowered and manned. Then a man, whose limited movements shown him to be heavily ironed, was brought to the side of the ship and evidently forced, for several pistols were held to his head, into the boat, which then came ashore and beached at Priest's Cove. The prisoner was made to stand up and was unshackled. In a frenzy of passion he attacked the sailors, but there were too many and too strong for him, and the fight terminated with him being thrown into the water and left to scramble up the dry sands. They pushed the boat off, and with a wild shout, this man stood uttering fearful imprecations on his former comrades. So this man that was pushed off, excluded, evicted from the pirate ship, his character was just so horrible that even pirates couldn't stand him. So they brought him here to Priest's Cove.
Pirates must have tricked, didn't they?
What's that?
Well, if he was that bad, he was just too bad to be a pirate.
Yeah.
He was evil, wasn't he? He was horrible. Yeah. Right? They shouldn't have dumped him here. This is quite nice. They should have taken him in. They should have dumped him in Campbell or something.
You can't say that.
Oh. Yeah, I can't say that, can I?
No.
We haven't done our Campbell walk over yet.
No.
We won't let me in, will they?
No, they might throw rotten eggs at us now.
I didn't mean Campbell, I meant Redruth. So we picked up the southwest coast path again.
Yeah.
if you've ever walked down here before, you've probably noticed the most impressive building up on the hillside here. It's got the most fantastic view across to Cape Cornwall. The property's called Portherras, and it's got quite an interesting history to it, but right now it's on the market.
How much?
A cool £5 million. If you've got £5 million kicking around, you could be the proud owner of this amazing property.
You might want to know what you get for a cool $5 million. You get that view all day, every day. Probably not at night. Pretty cool, isn't it? Let's have a look at the property detail. Which estate agent is on with?
I think it might be on with Savills.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
That says it all.
Yeah, I think it's got 10 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, 4 big reception rooms, a massive conservatory, and as you said, probably the best view in Cornwall. It's, do you know about the history of it?
I was just about to say, so here's a little bit more detail about the history of the place. Portherras was built by Francis Oates, who grew up in St Just. By the age of 20, he was a mine captain and later chairman of De Beers in South Africa. The house was completed in 1909, and he died in South Africa in 1918.
Is that Francis Oates, Sarah? Says that he was a Cornishman. He had this property built for his retirement, effectively, but he never really ended up coming back here to fully enjoy his retirement. So he died just after the First World War. He was obviously in South Africa and he couldn't get back, and it's unclear whether he actually saw this completed or not.
Such a shame, such a beautiful house.
But, so he was born in Gallant, which is up near Foy, and I think at the age of about 5 or 6 his family moved down to St Just, and the property, I don't know if you noticed when we came out of church at the start of our walk, the property opposite had a load of scaffolding up around it. I think it was number 4 maybe. That's where he was living when he came here aged 5.
So he made his fortune by going to South Africa and helping them mine diamonds.
Yeah, he ended up on the board of directors with De Beers. Is it De Beers? De Beers Diamonds, yeah. A very wealthy man, yes.
Evidently, it's a beautiful house.
This lasting legacy.
Yeah. Such a poignant story, especially when you think he might never have even stepped foot in there.
Yeah, I tried to look online just to try and get a bit more about the history of it, and it wasn't conclusive on it whether he ever did see it finished. If he did come back, I don't think he was here for very long.
Gosh.
But it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fantastic property.
Yeah.
It's also on the flight path as well, coming into Land's End Airport. They don't tell you that in the particulars.
So let's pick up the story of our wrecker, our horrible character that was too awful to live with pirates. This book carries on and it says he didn't appear to want for money as he soon rented a small lone tenement near the shore and married a widow of the neighbourhood. People wondered for a long while how so many vessels got wrecked under the cliff that bordered the stranger's farm. Our sneaky wrecker pirate tied the horse's nose with a lantern to the forefoot, so every time the leg went up and down, the lantern went up and down with it, making it look like a bobbing boat on the sea, and luring people in thinking they had plenty of sea room and a harbour. Potentially this is a spot where that book suggests he lived.
Yeah, so clearly that book is saying he lived nearby. He obviously lived quite close to the coast. It's one or two clues, and I think as we proceed with our walk, we're going to go into a little hamlet, which I think he possibly was living in at the time.
Okay, but it is potentially here that he was wrecking ships deliberately.
It's got to be, isn't it?
You can see that it would happen as well. There's so many rocks here, isn't there? Quite deadly.
It's like Jack and Ori, isn't it? This book goes on to say, but when these ships were wrecked, it says that any of their crews that escaped a watery grave, the wretch would knock on the head with his axe or cut off their hand when they tried to grasp the rocks.
Oh, he does sound like an evil character,
Horrible,
doesn't
isn't it? He lived long and became rich by his sin.
Oh, this guy is not a popular character, is he? He's been evicted by his pirate friends, and he isn't friends in the village either.
Too nasty to be a pirate, and everybody shunned him. I think everybody must have been petrified of him.
I think that's quite interesting though, because there is a big difference between wrecking and smuggling. So the smuggling, people rode to France, brought back contraband of all sorts, brandy, silk, tobacco, and sold it on a black market.
Yeah.
Whereas what we're talking about here is deliberately luring in a ship to wreck it, kill the people on board, and then take the goods that way.
Yeah, what I find quite interesting is with a lot of these old books, there's loads of references all the time to smuggling. Smuggling was obviously rife, wasn't it? It went on all the time. And when
everyone partook of it,
didn't they? And they didn't really see any real... They didn't really think they were doing anything too wrong.
No, the Cornish thought it was a bit of a, you know, one-up on the government, didn't they? But this character is isolated. He's isolated from the pirates and he's isolated from the community. So does that tell you how they perceived wrecking? Did they agree with wrecking?
Yeah, we found very little reference to wrecking going on in Cornwall.
It's about the only story we've come across, isn't it?
And it's mixed in with like a folklore story, like a legend. Now whether it existed or not, we don't know. But there's obviously, it looks like there's an element of truth within this. And yeah, you can see that. I think the genuine Cornish people at the time knew that wrecking was wrong. But they thought that smuggling was fine.
Yes, I agree. And I think this story highlights the difference, because they've cast him as an outsider and they've cast him as a loner, and they don't want to know.
Yeah, he was an Emmett, wasn't he?
Yeah. So that red book, the Hearthside Stories book, doesn't actually tell us where the wrecker lived. However, the green book, the Robert Hunt book, says he lived in Tregeseal. So we're going to make our way inland now up to Tregeseal.
I know that won't go in the video, but we've had a lot of rain.
I don't know how you got down here. Mud and brambles. I can deal with brambles and I can deal with mud, but when they're together, that's it. Coast path around St Just and Cape Cornwall is fantastic. You've got the Kenidjack Valley, Levant, Batalic, you've got Giva. It is such a rich area to come and walk, and you get so much out of it. We've done most of those walks, and at the end of this video we'll put a little playlist together, and if you want to watch a little bit more, feel free to do so. Black cloud over Tregeseal.
Yeah, it's quite convenient, isn't it, for our story?
Going, and it's all completely right for our story.
Well, I can actually make out the church tower. It's over there.
And this is what happened on the day he died.
Yes, yeah.
A life of extreme wickedness was at length closed with circumstances of unusual terror. The old wretch fought lustily with death, but at length the time of his departure came. A universal calm prevailed, and there was not a breath of wind to stir the corn. Suddenly a breeze passed by, and they heard the words, "The time is come, but the man isn't come." Looking out to sea, they saw a heavy, black, square-rigged ship with all her sails set, coming in against the wind and tide, and not a hand to be seen on board. The sky became black as night around the ship. The darkness resolved itself into a lurid storm cloud, which extended high into the air. The sun shone brilliantly over the country, except on the house of the pirate at Tregeseal, that was wrapped in the deep shadow of the cloud.
But that sky is so dramatic, isn't it?
Oh, you couldn't ask for something better. It's like we asked for it, planned it, ordered it.
Yeah, the only other thing I need now is a black pig.
Or a bolt of lightning.
A bolt of lightning, yeah. Get those couple of things as well, and that's made the video.
Pirate ship?
Yeah, oh, we missed that.
Parson?
Yeah, there's probably a few things we needed, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Never mind.
Okay, so our dark rain cloud is delivering. I can feel some spots of rain. I was so silly to be so thrilled to see a dark black rain cloud. Looks like we're going to get wet. Here it comes.
Get wet. Oh.
I'll give you a hand. Oh, there you go.
There we are.
Quick, zip up.
Oh, it's lovely at home. It's that Robert Hunt book, Popular
Yes.
Romances of the West of England.
Yeah.
Fantastic book as well. If you ever get
Yeah.
a chance to pick up a copy, and certainly recommend it. Some great stories in it. It does say in that book, there is a clue. It actually says that this wrecker had a cottage in Tregeseal.
Yes. So we're in the right place. Tregeseal Gallery. Do you want to go in there and ask her to pronounce it?
That's easy, isn't it? Gallery.
See anyone's shelter?
It'd be raining.
Yeah, very wet.
That wrecker had a bit of taste, you know, didn't he?
How's that?
Well, he chose a nice place to live.
Yeah.
If he was in Tregeseal, it's quite pretty, isn't it?
Rain.
Well, he's got the gallery there. You could go and have a browse in. It's quite nice, isn't it? I can see we're heading as well. Have you seen it up there? That's where we're trying to get to.
Oh yeah.
This is the church tower. I'm not sure if it's coming out with the rain. It's up there. It's beyond the sheep.
Ooh,
Oh no, they're not sheep. They're cows.
saying rain, I was optimistic that it was an April shower, and it is easing off. So shall we carry on?
Yeah, come on.
It's actually not that far down to the coast path, to the southwest coast path on a horse. Probably only take you, well, it took us 20 minutes to walk, so on a horse half that, isn't it? So it's quite feasible. This is where he lived.
I like that. A cat and its staff lives here. Oh, cute.
Can you see anything?
Just about. We know that this wrecker was supposed to live in Tregeseal because
Yeah.
the Robert Hunt book tells us that, doesn't
Yes,
it? Okay,
yes.
but what he doesn't tell us, which is really unfortunate, is which property he lived in.
Well, there probably weren't many
No,
here at the time,
but
was there?
There's a row of houses here, and I think I've worked it out.
Oh, you're right.
Okay, because we're talking about superstitions, aren't we, from
Yes,
that book?
yes.
Right? He was probably not quite a pleasant chap, was he, by sound of
No.
it? So I reckon if he had a choice of these, he'd have number 13. So I'll film it anyway.
What about this for a theory then? If he had a horse, he had a stable. If he had a stable, he had land. And if he did the wrecking, he had money. So perhaps we're looking for a house with land, like a farm, maybe?
Ooh.
Some beautiful
So
houses.
substantial.
What about that one up in the trees? Nobody wanted to be near him either, did they?
Mm. Yeah, you might be right.
So the story continues that at length, however, the time came for the fiend, or the devil, to claim his own. When he was dying, his awful shrieks were heard far away, as he cried, "Do save me from the devil and the sailors there, looking to tear me to pieces." Several parsons and other pious folk were sent for. All of those in the neighbourhood readily came, for the dying sinner was rich. During the time the exorcists were engaged, the chamber seemed, by the sound, to be filled with the sea splashing around the bed. Waves were heard as if surging and breaking against the house, though it was a good bit inland. Eventually the wrecker dies, and it is not without some gruesome winds, rains, thunder, darkness, bright lights. Quickly the villagers put his body in a coffin, and they take him to the church. So the story continues with the villagers taking the coffin up to the church. A pig appeared out of nowhere, and with an instant he was gone again. Nobody knew when. They carried on carrying the coffin to the church, and they noticed it had got lighter.
So are they suggesting in that the coffin gradually got lighter? This black pig appeared and then disappeared. So they
Yeah.
sort of suggesting that he took the form of the pig and sort of scarpered, maybe.
I don't know. I don't understand the symbolism, whether or not they thought the devil had taken the form of a pig and had taken the body away. But they noticed that the coffin wasn't heavy enough to have a body inside it. So in fear, they abandoned it at the church, at the stile, before they even entered the churchyard, and they ran into the church for safety.
We're back at the church now, so I'll just conclude the story, and it's talking about they were obviously bringing this coffin to the church, and as we've already kind of said, it says, then as the coffin was borne towards the churchyard, a large black pig came, no one knew from whence, and followed the bearers, who all declared that the coffin was too light to contain any body. The sky too became suddenly overcast, and a tempest raged to that degree they could scarcely keep on their legs to reach the churchyard stile, where such sheets of blinding lightning flashed around them that they dropped the coffin and rushed into the church. The storm having abated, they ventured out and found nothing of the coffin but its handles and a few nails, for it had been set on fire and all else consumed by the lightning. And it finally says, it does not appear what business the black pig had in the funeral procession. Such is the way, however, in which a story is always told.
Wow.
So our walk is concluded. We are back where we started. We're here at the church, and we're back by the grave of Stephen Harvey James, and we've used the book which he once owned to tell this story. And it actually makes me feel as if we are custodians of this book.
Yeah.
It's kind of been passed on. It was obviously loved and cherished by them as a family. Now it's kind of got into our hands, and we need to love and cherish that book until we can pass it on to somebody else.
It's quite a privilege, really, isn't it?
It is a privilege, isn't it?
Yeah.
So thank you, Stephen Harvey James.
Did you just talk to a gravestone?
I did.
Okay.
Don't you do it?
No.
I do.
I think you need a coffee.
Yeah.
So we're back at St Just Church, having told you the story of the wrecker and the death ship.
I love that story, and I love the walk as well. We reckon it's probably approaching 4.5, 5 mile walk. It starts here in St Just, and goes out to the coast down to Cape Cornwall.
Most beautiful part of our coastline as well, isn't it?
Some stunning views down there, isn't it? Down to Priest Cove. Beautiful place just to sit and just take it all in, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then we came back via Tregeseal. We tried to go to some of the places that were talked about in this story. So we've done this as a homemade walk.
Yes, so I'll write up the details. We'll put it onto the appropriate tiers on YouTube, membership and Patreon. So if you wanted to give it a go yourself, pop over there and you'll find it. But for now,
thanks for joining us.
Say goodbye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Till next time. Bye bye.